The world of trading card games is a ruthless one. Many hundreds have met their fate and died. However, the remains they leave behind never truly vanish from this world. Welcome to Cards from the Abyss!
Hey everybody, this is Kodak here, and welcome to a new segment I'm making called Cards from the Abyss. Mwah, ha 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 ha. Anyway, this is a segment that I'm making to cover the number of dead card games that I've been hoping to cover. There's so many games that I want to cover that we can potentially learn something from, get some useful information, learn a little bit of history. So I figured I might as well get as many of those out of the way this October as I can. And what we're starting with is admittedly a bit of an oddball choice. However, the fascinating story of how I encountered this game is like basically a creepypasta, so I figured it'd be a good place to start.
It was a hot day out there in the Badlands. I was making a long haul from Ohio to Tennessee when I stopped in this town in Kentucky that looked like it hadn't changed a day since 1964. I pulled in for some lunch when I noticed across the street, next to a whitewashed house with some rusted old farm equipment, there was an old man sitting there. The kind of old man you'd expect in that neck of the woods, overalls and everything. He had a table set up and was selling something. Cards from a game I had never seen before. I was intrigued and I approached the old man. I asked him how much it was and he said he'd give it to me for a fair price. I bought them then and there, and when I got home I tried to look up more about the game. However, I could find nothing else more about it. Since that day, I haven't encountered that game, and the only proof that any of that happened at all are the things I have now.
Yep, so this is Tracksters, and yes, that story I told about how I found this in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky is absolutely true. In fact, I've eventually stumbled across some other places that have product, but there's similarly that sort of, South Central United States kind of region, that kind of NASCAR country, but yeah, this is Tracksters. It is from a 2008 game that involved a combination of real cars, genuine like toy cars in this old yellowed packaging you see here, and actual booster packs of cards. However, these cards are not necessarily what you think of when I cover things on these channels, because you guys know what code cards are, right? For instance, this Pokemon code card, where there's a card that comes in a booster pack that includes a code that you can use to redeem for some kind of online game. These were first made with the Neopets game, but they really hit popularity with the World of Warcraft card game, which always included a code card that allowed you to unlock additional content inside the video game of World of Warcraft. That was one of the huge driving factors of its popularity, that people were buying the packs just for these code cards. And after that took off, then pretty much every game out there had to have some kind of code card system in order to compete. There was a whole big mess of these where every single booster pack had to have some kind of online connectivity. I mean, we had ones where like one card per pack had a code, like with the Maple Story here. We had ones where every card had a code, like with Chaotic, and eventually it reached its apotheosis where there were card products being put out that were purely code cards, like these cards for a game called Saga, where it's literally a booster pack with one card inside of it, the code card inside of it. And yeah, that's the situation we have going on with Tracksters as well. These are code cards. They are code cards that come in booster packs and contain random rewards. Now, these were pretty common in the aughts, in the early 2000s. However, you don't really see too many of these days, especially ones that are like purely code cards, because, they've all moved on to microtransactions. But anyway, Tracksters as a concept is that you get these code cards, and what they do is they contain Tracksters. It's sort of it's a game from 2008. had to struggle a little bit to find some actual gameplay footage of it, but it's this kind of janky sort of racing game. I think it's like a browser-based game. It looks kind of janky because it's, 2008. There were definitely better kart racers available at the time. I mean, we had Mario Kart, although we didn't really have Mario Kart Online. This was still like the Wii PS3 era. It was like internet connected racing was kind of still in its infancy. It was kind of spotty whether or not you could actually get things like Xbox Live and stuff to work, but there were certainly options on racing games other than what we could find here. But the idea is that it actually has like a scratch-off code here where you are able to scratch a code and get a power-up, although this isn't inherently a bad idea. I've talked about Light Seekers, and maybe my biggest praise for Light Seekers was that the cards that do actually work in a trading card game also had codes that unlocked stuff that you could do in a video game that worked for a while. It was an attempt at a Toys to Life game, but because you could play it without buying the toys, nobody bought the toys, and it went under faster than the card game did. But the idea that you open a booster pack of cards, and not only do you get trading cards that work in the game, you get like a brand new toy box to play with in the video game, isn't necessarily a bad idea. Although we can't have like pure code cards like this anymore. They have to have some kind of double function, like they have to come with a product, or they have to actually be a playable card. So you won't see these kinds of code cards anymore, except on like advertising material. Like I was at New York Comic Con last weekend, and I got some advertising from Summoner's War. Not Summoner Wars, Summoner's War. It's actually a different thing. Yeah, I got confused too. It's made looking up Summoner Wars on Google a nightmare as well. But yeah, they are different things. But anyway, getting back to these code cards, like I said, the idea of having cards that could also give you benefits in an online game isn't a bad thing. I've always loved the idea of sort of cross-platform. I love the idea that Pokemon Go can now be used to affect the main Pokemon game. I'd love it if there was more stuff that did that, but there are we have some interesting things that happen in these cards. So, for example, this card says for the next 2 races, your engines will gain a bonus of 100 horsepower. And this is a rare. You can see it has the foiling effect. But that sounds a bit stingy, doesn't it? It only works for 2 races and then it goes away after dropping the money on the booster packs. The power-up I got sort of loses its potency. That doesn't seem like a very fun thing here. But we do get some other things. We have 3 races, get 80 horsepower. For the next 30 races, your engine will gain a bonus of 50 horsepower. Now this seems like a much better one. Horsepower plus 50, strong off-road engine. Works only for off-road cars, but 30 races is certainly a lot more generous than 2 races. For the next 20 races, the acceleration rate of your car will be increased by 25%. Like I said, another thing about these code cards is they are kind of one and dones. You can't really trade them unless you can prove that this web code hasn't been scratched, and that's why they've included the scratch off on this web code here, so you can prove that a web code hasn't been used by simply not scratching it off. I mean, I could scratch one off here, but these cards are like 12 years old. I don't know if I want to risk damaging them. However, then we get some interesting stuff. Like we got the Bronze Firestone sponsorship. You are sponsored by Firestone. This sponsorship awards you 1,000 tracked bucks, a small decal, and a set of their best car parts. Equipping these parts grants you double track bucks for 25 races. So the big question is, does this card actually, are the bonuses it imparts permanent? Are the new parts that it gives you a permanent upgrade? But we do have permanent upgrades here. We have for example, get the Wildstorm front bumper and rear bumper. I was able to get both of these out of the pack. These are apparently permanent upgrades. Like, oh, I scratched one off here. Go ahead and use it if you can on a game that's been dead for over 10 years. But yeah, you can get permanent upgrades in here as well. The temporary upgrades I have an issue with. The permanent ones not so much. When equipped, your car will take 75% less damage than an unshielded vehicle for 5 races. You get a sturdy new toolbox. I don't know if this is a cosmetic item or if it offers some kind of benefit, but it's an interesting idea nonetheless. We have some more here. So the idea that you can get permanent upgrades, I think, ups the appeal of these things, although the ones that are only worth it for like 1 or 2 races, I think, is a problem. You need to be able to do something else with that. I don't know if you also got like some other kind of in-game reward bonus for doing it or something. Like I was saying with the codes also mean that it's kind of difficult. You can't share these. That's a thing that, you know, Skylanders and Amiibo and they can do, is you can share them. Like, you get the cards in the pack, but then you can like swap it to a friend even after you've had all your fun with it. You can swap it with a friend for another card and have even more fun. Like Skylanders for a while were like the playground swap item of choice, because each one unlocked like new levels and bonuses and stuff. Moving on, we have a new spoiler. You got a new aerodynamic spoiler, so this is another permanent one. Although I'm judging by the paint can that these are like cosmetic items. And high velocity intake, so this has gear, so it actually has an effect. The next race, your engine will gain a bonus of 75 horsepower, so just 1 race off of this card, yikes. Turbocharger, 3 races for 45 horsepower. That off-road engine giving 30 races seems downright generous now. And then we have the Shuffle mystery cards, which are kind of similar to these cards where you don't know what you get until you enter them in. That's usually how these kinds of code cards work, is that you don't really know what's on these cards until you scratch them in. Although I have saved the best for last, because even though I only got like 2 packs of the stuff and 1 toy car, the idea is that you buy the toy car and it includes the code that unlocks it in the video game, was I actually got the secret rare card. So this secret rare card is probably the oddballiest of cards out of the lot. It is card number 0, as a secret rare is loath to be. Off-road card. This card permanently, very nice word there, unlocks a new special card. I guess this is like the Webkins trading cards that unlock a new pet. A new special card. This card can't be visually modified or tuned. So this is basically a permanent upgrade to your collection. It's a free card, basically, although the weird thing about this card is that it is embossed. Yeah, that's not like a cold foil effect there. No, this is like actual stamping. Like, you can see it on the back too. I've never seen this done on like any trading card where you have a card that is uniquely embossed like this. And all of these cards, they all have the same matching back as though they were for a trading card game, but then you have this monster out here that is just something crazy. I mean, it's certainly a unique part of my collection. I love it. I should probably take better care of it. It's kind of hard to sleeve something that's built like this, though. But yeah, it's certainly a unique addition to my collection, having the secret rare Tracksters card. But this might have been more fun if, like I said, these cards were actually like components to a card game. Like, you play your card and that'll be your starter, and then you give it some customizable parts that give it like power-ups and upgrades that allow you to do cool stuff on your turn. Maybe it could be like a Milburn thing where the goal is to like get the most miles on your turn and your opponent can like play breakdowns on you and stuff. That might be a cool way to do a racing game, kind of twist up Milburn a bit. But yeah, it is also quite definitely an artifact of its time. Like I said, straight up code cards were a rarity. They were relatively short-lived, especially once microtransactions and loot boxes became the real thing to do, because with loot boxes you don't have to incur any production costs, and there's no limitation on how much you can exploit somebody monetarily. But yep, that's it. That is Tracksters, and this is the 06 Chevy Corvette. I guess this would have been fairly new at the time. This is a game from, I believe, 2008. XP and Vista. Ah, man, remember when Vista was a thing? You need a 1 gigabyte hard drive, 384 megabytes of RAM, and of course it required DSL and cable internet. But yeah, it was basically, you know, you had these Hot Wheels cars and you literally scan them in. MMOG, massive multiplayer online game. See, it's just like World of Warcraft. So this, like I said, that's Tracksters for you. Very much a product of its time. I have quite possibly invited a curse into my home by grabbing these things from a random old man in middle of nowhere, Kentucky, but hey, it's all for the sake of fun and games and showing some cool stuff off to you guys. So that is Tracksters. See you next time on Cards from the Abyss. Wah ha 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 ha.